In this video, I'm about to reveal 40 pretzel brands you should never eat because of seed oils, artificial flavors, preservatives, dyes, and ultra-processed ingredients, plus 10 clean, real ingredient pretzel brands that are actually worth buying, starting with number 40, Rolled Gold. Rolled Gold is one of the biggest names in pretzels, but behind the classic crunchy shape lies a history most people don't know. In 2023, Frito-Lay issued a nationwide recall of select Rolled Gold pretzels due to an undeclared allergen milk, a serious problem for anyone with sensitivities, especially because pretzels are usually assumed to be allergen safe. That recall shook many loyal consumers who trusted the brand for decades. Even aside from that, Rolled Gold relies heavily on bleached enriched flour, artificial additives, and anti-caking agents that offer more shelf stability than real nutrition. The texture also comes from oil blends that aren't the cleanest, including low-grade vegetable oil mixtures linked to oxidation and staleness. Many longtime customers also complain that the flavor has changed, becoming more chemical and less natural over the years. That's often the result of formula adjustments designed to cut production costs. Number 39. Snyder's of Hanover. Snyder's is known for bold flavors and classic twists, but their regular line isn't as clean as you'd think. Many of their mainstream products contain enriched flour, artificial flavor enhancers, and refined oils that add crunch but offer little real nutrition. Several consumer groups have also criticized the brand for using ingredient shortcuts in their widely distributed supermarket varieties. Complaints around salt overload are consistent. Their regular line pretzels often contain extremely high sodium, far above what most snack brands use. That much sodium can easily push people toward bloating, water retention, and higher blood pressure if eaten frequently. Another commonly reported issue is recipe inconsistency, with some bags tasting stale or overly toasted. This usually happens when mass production is pushed too fast, causing uneven baking. Number 38. Utz Pretzels. Utz is a classic American snack brand, but their pretzels, especially the standard everyday bags, come with several drawbacks. The biggest problem is the heavy use of preservatives and conditioners to keep the pretzels crispy for long shipping routes. These additives don't make the product unsafe, but they do push it far from real ingredients. Utz pretzels also contain refined enriched flour, one of the lowest quality grain bases used in processed snacks. The result is a pretzel that spikes blood sugar quickly and leaves you hungry again soon after. Many customers also complain about excessive surface salt, a sign of rushed tumbling during production rather than careful seasoning. In 2019, Utz faced a small recall involving mislabeled allergen content in some flavored snacks, not directly the pretzels, but it raised questions about cross-line quality control. Overall, Utz pretzels deliver crunch but not clean ingredients. The salt overload, processed flour, and preservative-heavy formula make them a brand better left on the shelf if you're aiming for healthier snacking. Number 37. Herr's Pretzels. Herr's is known for bold snacks, but their pretzel line isn't the cleanest option on shelves. The biggest concern with Herr's pretzels is their reliance on highly refined, enriched flour and cheap vegetable oil blends that add crunch, but not nutrition. Many longtime customers have complained about a noticeable oily aftertaste, especially in their classic pretzel sticks, often the result of lower-grade oils that oxidize during storage. Herr's has also dealt with several flavored snack recalls in the past, mostly chips and cheese curls tied to undeclared allergens. While those recalls didn't directly involve pretzels, they raised real concerns about cross-line quality control, mainly since multiple snack products are processed in the same facilities. Another issue is salt inconsistency. Some bags are extremely salty, while others taste bland, showing uneven seasoning during production, a sign of rushed batch processing rather than careful preparation. Herr's may be a nostalgic brand, but the processed flour, unstable oil blends, and inconsistent quality control make their pretzels far from a clean, everyday snack. Number 36. Great Value Pretzels. Walmart's Great Value Pretzels look like an affordable alternative to name-brand snacks, but the ingredient list tells a different story. These pretzels rely heavily on low-grade enriched flour, synthetic dough conditioners, and anti-clumping agents that give them a long shelf life, but strip away real nutritional value. Many shoppers notice they taste flat or stale even when freshly opened, usually because budget pretzels use ultra-refined flour with almost no natural flavor left. Customer reviews also show consistent complaints about broken pretzels and powdery crumbs filling the bottom of the bag. This isn't dangerous, but it signals flimsy production methods and weak texture, often caused by using cheaper dough and thinner bakes. While Great Value hasn't had major pretzel recalls, the brand has had quality control issues in other categories, raising concerns about overall consistency across its snack lines. If you're trying to avoid overly processed ingredients, Great Value pretzels don't offer much. The cheap flour, mediocre texture, and weak flavor make them one of the least impressive pretzel choices in the grocery aisle. Number 35. Market Pantry Pretzels. Target's Market Pantry Pretzels look clean and straightforward, but the brand relies on ultra-processed, enriched flour and refined oils that don't offer the wholesome feel the packaging suggests. A big complaint among shoppers is the dry, dusty texture, which comes from overbaked dough and a lack of natural oils or quality grain. This makes the pretzels feel brittle rather than crunchy. Market Pantry snacks have also received frequent customer complaints about stale-tasting batches and inconsistent freshness dates. This usually happens when pretzels are mass-produced and shipped long distances without protective packaging layers. By the time they reach store shelves, the texture can already be compromised. Another issue is surface bitterness, something many buyers note in reviews. This comes from uneven baking and rushed production cycles, where the outer crust gets too toasted while the inside remains underdeveloped. Number 34. Kirkland Pretzels. Kirkland is known for Great Value, but their pretzels don't live up to the quality standard people expect from Costco. The biggest issue, shoppers report, is inconsistent texture. Some batches come out perfectly crunchy, while others taste unusually dry or slightly stale right out of a fresh bag. That inconsistency usually points to mass production with less attention to small batch quality. Another concern is the high sodium content. Kirkland's pretzels often contain significantly more salt per serving than similar national brands. For anyone watching blood pressure or trying to avoid excessive sodium, these pretzels add up quickly. Customers have also complained about an unexpected bitter aftertaste, especially in the rods and sticks. This usually comes from uneven baking or over-toasted flour, which can happen when large industrial ovens run at maximum capacity. Number 33. Members Mark Pretzels. Member Mark pretzels look almost identical to name brand options, but they rely on very low-grade enriched flour and refined vegetable oils that don't offer much real nutrition. Many Sam's Club shoppers note that these pretzels feel chalky in the mouth, a sign of overly processed dough and poor quality flour. Another problem is breakage. The pretzels often arrive with a large amount of shattered pieces at the bottom of the bag. This typically happens when the dough is too dry or when the product is baked too thin, making it fragile during shipping. Customer reviews also mention flavor flatness. The pretzels have almost no depth, tasting bland even with salt. That's because Members Mark uses a simplified ingredient list designed for low cost instead of high quality. While affordable, the chalky texture, weak flavor, and fragile build make Members Mark pretzels a brand worth avoiding if you want anything resembling an authentic, satisfying pretzel. Number 32. Trader Joe's Regular Pretzels. Trader Joe's has a loyal fan base, but their regular pretzels have earned mixed reviews over the years. The biggest issue is recipe inconsistency. One bag may taste perfectly balanced, while another tastes overbaked or underseasoned. That inconsistency usually occurs because Trader Joe's sources from multiple suppliers, and each factory produces slightly different results. Another frequent complaint involves hardness. Many customers report that the pretzels are too hard to bite, especially the twists. That indicates over-drying during the baking process, leaving the pretzels denser and more rigid than intended. Some buyers have also noticed a subtle yeasty or sour note, which comes from dough that's fermented slightly longer than usual, another sign of supplier variation. While Trader Joe's excels with specialty snacks, their regular pretzels don't match the brand's usual quality control, suffering from hard texture, inconsistent flavor, and variable baking quality. Not unsafe, just not worth choosing when cleaner, more reliable pretzel brands exist. Number 31. Signature Select Pretzels. Signature Select Pretzels look budget-friendly and straightforward, but the ingredient list relies heavily on super refined flour, dough stabilizers, and additives made for shelf life rather than authentic flavor. The result is a pretzel that often tastes flat and cardboard-like, according to many reviewers. A major complaint is the uneven salt distribution. Some pretzels are coated heavily, while others have almost no salt at all. That usually means the seasoning process wasn't controlled carefully, which is common in high-speed production. Another issue is the hollow, airy structure. Signature Select pretzels sometimes feel puffed rather than crunchy, which indicates steam escaping too quickly during baking. That leads to weak texture and a less satisfying bite. The brand hasn't faced major pretzel recalls, but they have received frequent freshness complaints, especially in regions where products sit in warehouses longer. Number 30. Kroger pretzels. Kroger's pretzels are affordable, but they come with a handful of recurring quality issues. The most common complaint is staleness, even when the bag is freshly opened. This usually happens when pretzels are stored too long between distribution centers, a known issue with large nationwide chains. Kroger pretzels also rely on ultra-refined enriched flour, giving them a thin, brittle snap rather than the deeper, satisfying crunch pretzels should have. Many customers say the pretzels shatter into crumbs instead of breaking cleanly. Another concern is the burned undertone that appears in some batches. This comes from uneven baking, where parts of the pretzel cook faster than others. While Kroger snacks are generally dependable, the stale texture, brittle crunch, and burned aftertaste make their regular pretzels an easy pass for anyone looking for quality. Number 29. Publix pretzels. Publix is known for great store-brand products, but its pretzels fall short. The main issue is texture dryness. Many customers describe it as hard without being crunchy, a sign that the dough is baked too long or lacks natural oils that help maintain softness. Another consistent complaint is flavor flatness. Publix pretzels often taste overly plain, even with salt. This usually happens when the dough isn't allowed to develop enough before baking, leaving the pretzel without depth or richness. Some buyers also report inconsistent bag freshness, especially in regions farther from Publix's main distribution centers. That inconsistency leads to some bags tasting fresh, while others taste muted or slightly stale. Publix excels in many food categories, but the dry texture, lack of flavor, and inconsistent freshness make their pretzels a weaker pick compared to their other store-brand hits. Number 28. Aldi Clancy's pretzels. Aldi's Clancy's pretzels are cheap and convenient, but their most significant drawback is the over-dried texture that many shoppers complain about. These pretzels often feel unusually hard, not crunchy, a sign of dough that's baked at high heat to speed up mass production. When pretzels are dried too aggressively, they lose natural flavor and end up tasting more like brittle crackers. Another recurring issue is flavor flatness. Clancy's pretzels tend to have a very mild or almost neutral taste, which usually happens when low-cost flour and simplified formulas are used to keep prices down. Many customers mention the pretzels taste lifeless, even with salt. There are also reviews pointing out salt fall-off, where the seasoning doesn't stick properly, leaving the surface bare and the bottom of the bag filled with loose crystals, a quality control problem linked to insufficient dough moisture. Aldi delivers some great snacks, but Clancy's pretzels suffer from over-drying, weak flavor, and poor seasoning adhesion, making them far less satisfying than real, well-made pretzels. Number 27. Winco pretzels. Winco is known for warehouse-style pricing, but its store-brand pretzels struggle with texture inconsistency. Many customers report that some pieces are soft or slightly chewy, while others are overly crisp, a sign that batches weren't baked uniformly. Uneven texture usually points to dough hydration issues or inconsistent oven timing. Another common complaint is the strange toasty bitterness that appears in specific batches. This usually comes from pretzels spending too long at the initial browning stage, causing the outer crust to taste slightly burnt while the interior stays pale. Winco's pretzels also show a tendency towards staling faster than competing brands once opened. That's typically due to thinner dough walls and lower oil content, which make the pretzels lose freshness more quickly. Shoppers love Winco for price and bulk value, but the uneven texture, occasional bitterness, and quick staling make these pretzels a poor choice if you care about quality snacking. Number 26. Hy-Vee pretzels. Hy-Vee carries many solid store-brand items, but their pretzels aren't among them. The most consistent complaint is extreme dryness. These pretzels feel like they're missing the slight internal softness that gives an authentic pretzel its signature snap. When dough is rolled thin and baked too long, it produces the cardboard-like crunch customers often describe. Another issue is surface oversalting. Hy-Vee pretzels often look heavily seasoned on one side and nearly bare on the other, which results in uneven flavor with every bite. This type of imbalance happens when seasoning drums aren't appropriately calibrated. Shoppers also mention that pretzels sometimes develop a dusty taste, a sign that the flour blend is overly refined and lacks natural malted notes that make pretzels flavorful. Hy-Vee is reliable in many grocery categories, but the dry crunch, uneven salt, and bland dough profile make their pretzels one of the weaker store-brand options. Number 25. Giant Eagle pretzels. Giant Eagle pretzels look simple and harmless, but shoppers frequently report off flavors that make them taste different from one bag to the next. Some batches have a mild metallic note, which usually happens when baking soda levels vary during the pretzel's dipping stage. That inconsistency points to rushed production rather than controlled, small batch baking. Another common complaint is unexpected softness, where pretzels don't deliver the crisp break you expect. This typically occurs when the dough isn't dried long enough before baking, trapping extra moisture inside. As a result, pretzels can feel stale even though the bag is brand new. Some customers also mention heavy surface salt buildup, making the pretzels overwhelmingly salty in certain bites. That's a sign of uneven seasoning distribution in high-volume factories. While Giant Eagle has great bakery items, their packaged pretzels fall short with inconsistent flavor, soft texture, and uneven seasoning, making them one of the less dependable store-brand pretzel options. Number 24. Harris Teeter Pretzels. Harris Teeter pretzels are budget-friendly, but several quality issues make them easy to skip. The biggest complaint is the grainy, dusty mouthfeel, something shoppers frequently note in reviews. This happens when low-cost flour blends lack malted barley, the ingredient that gives pretzels their signature richness and smooth crunch. Another persistent issue is uneven bake coloration. Some pretzels come out pale while others are very dark, even within the same bag. That usually indicates inconsistent oven heat or improperly rotated trays, both signs of mass production shortcuts. Customers also mention a mild cardboard flavor, which generally suggests under-fermented dough. When pretzel dough doesn't rest long enough, it never develops the deep flavor that makes pretzels addictive. Harris Teeter performs well in many grocery categories. Still, their pretzels tend to disappoint with a grainy texture, uneven coloring, and underdeveloped flavor, making them difficult to enjoy if you prefer anything close to real pretzel quality. Number 23. Food Lion Pretzels. Food Lion pretzels are inexpensive, but their main issue is extreme brittleness. These pretzels break far too easily, and often arrive with a pile of crumbs at the bottom of the bag. That usually means the dough was either rolled too thin or dried too aggressively before baking. Taste-wise, customers note a mild chemical-like sharpness, which can happen when pretzels rely heavily on cheap leavening agents instead of traditional malt and yeast fermentation. It doesn't make them unsafe, but it does make them unpleasant to snack on. Many shoppers also report quick staling, where pretzels lose crispness within a day or two after opening. That rapid staling points to low-fat dough and weak moisture retention, a common issue in ultra-budget formulas. Number 22. ShopRite Pretzels. ShopRite pretzels look like a standard budget snack, but their biggest weakness is the overly dense, compact texture that many customers complain about. Instead of breaking cleanly, these pretzels often feel tough, almost like they were compressed too tightly during shaping. That density usually comes from dough that hasn't been appropriately aerated, leaving the final product heavy rather than crisp. Flavor-wise, shoppers frequently report a mild baking soda sharpness, which happens when the alkaline dip isn't balanced correctly. Too much soda can overpower the malt flavor that gives pretzels their signature taste. Another recurring issue is surface dullness. These pretzels often lack the shiny, golden exterior you expect. That indicates the dough wasn't dipped long enough before baking, a sign of high-speed production where small steps get rushed. ShopRite offers many great store-brand foods, but their pretzels fall short with dense texture, soda-forward taste, and dull exterior, making them a weak choice for anyone who wants authentic pretzel flavor. Number 21. Weiss Pretzels. Weiss pretzels struggle with a particular quality issue: inconsistent crunch stability. Some bags contain pretzels that feel crisp and balanced, while others have pieces that crumble instantly or feel oddly soft in the center. That inconsistency usually comes from dough that hasn't been proofed evenly across batches. Shoppers also report a subtle chalky aftertaste, often linked to low-cost bleached flour. When flour is heavily refined, it loses natural wheat flavor and leaves pretzels tasting flat rather than savory. Another issue is the lack of aroma. Authentic pretzels have a warm, toasted smell due to the Maillard reaction during baking. Weiss pretzels sometimes smell neutral or slightly starchy, suggesting insufficient browning or underdeveloped dough. While Weiss is a reliable grocery chain, their pretzels suffer from texture inconsistency, chalky flavor, and weak aroma, making them far less enjoyable than similar-priced alternatives. Number 20. Western Family Pretzels. Western Family Pretzels look identical to many low-cost store brands, but their most significant drawback is the powdery surface texture that customers frequently mention. Instead of having a smooth, glossy crust, these pretzels feel dusty, which suggests that the dough wasn't appropriately dipped in the lye or soda solution before baking. Taste-wise, many shoppers report a bland, slightly sweet flavor, which typically happens when pretzels rely on basic white flour and minimal fermentation. Without proper dough development, the pretzels never build the savory depth that defines a real pretzel. Another issue is the thin, fragile structure. Western family pretzels often break in transit, indicating that the dough formula uses very low moisture and oil levels to cut costs, but at the expense of strength and crunch quality. Number 19. Big Y pretzels. Big Y pretzels look like a standard regional store brand snack, but they struggle with one major quality issue: extreme batch variability. Some bags taste perfectly normal, while others have a noticeably sharp, almost metallic edge, which often comes from pretzels that spend too long in the alkaline dip before baking. That uneven dipping can disrupt flavor and leave a bitter note on the crust. Many shoppers also complain about thin, overly crisp pieces that shatter easily. This usually means the dough was rolled too thin or dried excessively to stretch production volume, both common shortcuts in large regional factories. Another recurring complaint is about oiliness developing after opening. While not dangerous, it signals that the pretzels may have absorbed moisture during storage, causing surface oxidation and a stale, slightly greasy feel. Big Y is a respected regional chain, but its pretzels often disappoint with uneven flavor, fragile texture, and quick staling, making them one of the weaker pretzel options for everyday snacking. Number 18. Dollar Tree Greenbrier Pretzels. Dollar Tree's Greenbrier pretzels are incredibly cheap, but that low price shows in the quality. The most common complaint is hollow, airy pretzels that crumble instantly, which usually means the dough lacked proper hydration and was baked too quickly. Cheap manufacturing often relies on ultra-low moisture dough to reduce drying time, resulting in fragile, brittle pretzels. Another issue is the chemical-like aftertaste many customers describe. This usually happens when heavily refined flour and low-cost leavening agents dominate the formula, leaving behind sharp, synthetic notes rather than authentic pretzel flavor. Shoppers also report bags loaded with broken pieces, suggesting weak structure and poor handling standards during transport. Because Greenbrier products are sourced from multiple low-cost suppliers, consistency from bag to bag is nearly impossible to maintain. Number 17. Clover Valley Pretzels. Clover Valley pretzels from Dollar General look similar to other budget snacks, but their biggest flaw is a stale, muted crunch that appears even in freshly sealed bags. This usually indicates long warehouse storage times before the product ever reaches the store. With pretzels, extended storage can flatten both texture and flavor. Another frequent complaint is the slightly floury, dusty exterior, which suggests underdeveloped dough or insufficient caramelization during baking. Without proper browning, pretzels lose the signature deep, toasted aroma and end up tasting bland. The pretzels also tend to vary in shape. Some pieces are warped or unevenly twisted, a sign that the cutting and shaping equipment isn't perfectly calibrated. While not harmful, it's another indicator of lower production standards. Clover Valley offers convenience, but these pretzels fall short with stale texture, dusty flavor, and inconsistent shaping, making them one of the least satisfying pretzel options on the budget shelves. Number 16. Family Dollar Pretzels. Family Dollar pretzels are very inexpensive, but the quality reflects the price. The most common issue shoppers mention is the overly pale, underbaked appearance. Authentic pretzels develop a rich brown crust from the Maillard reaction, but when factories rush production, the dough often doesn't brown thoroughly, leaving the pretzels looking and tasting flat. Another consistent complaint is uneven salt adhesion. Some pieces are heavily coated, while others are almost bare, which usually means the pretzels were seasoned before the surface appropriately dried. That leads to patchy salt coverage and a flavor that swings from overly salty to strangely bland. Customers also report a chalky bite that indicates the dough formula uses very refined, low-flavor flour. When the flour lacks natural wheat notes, pretzels end up tasting one-dimensional and empty. Family Dollar's pricing is attractive, but the pale crust, patchy seasoning, and chalky dough make these pretzels feel low-grade compared to even other budget brands. Number 15. Meijer Pretzels. Meijer has a strong reputation for store-brand products, but their pretzels are often criticized for a distinct dryness that borders on brittle. This dryness usually comes from extended pre-baked drying times meant to speed up oven turnover, but it leaves the pretzels without the internal snap customers expect. Another issue is flavor neutrality. Meyer pretzels frequently lack the subtle malt sweetness and toasted depth that define good pretzels. This typically happens when dough fermentation is shortened to keep production efficient, resulting in a flat, underdeveloped flavor profile. Reviewers also point out that the pretzels can develop a sweet-sour edge in specific batches. That's usually a sign of dough that sat longer than intended before baking, allowing yeast activity to shift the flavor slightly off-center. While Meyer excels in many categories, these pretzels tend to disappoint with dry crunch, underdeveloped fermentation, and occasional off-notes, making them one of the weaker snacks in their otherwise solid lineup. Number 14. Piggly Wiggly Pretzels. Piggly Wiggly pretzels may look like standard grocery snacks, but they struggle with a notably thin structure that makes them break far too easily. This kind of fragility usually happens when factories stretch dough to maximize batch yield, creating pretzels with weak internal strength. Taste is another recurring issue. Many customers describe a flat, flour-forward flavor, which suggests the dough isn't treated with enough malt or isn't fermented long enough to build objective pretzel complexity. Without proper fermentation, pretzels lose the deep-roasted notes people expect. Some bags also show inconsistent surface color, where parts of the pretzel look pale next to darker patches. That usually comes from uneven airflow inside industrial ovens, a sign of older equipment or rushed processing. Piggly Wiggly is a nostalgic chain for many shoppers, but their pretzels fall short with thin structure, bland dough, and uneven browning, making them a snack that feels more forgettable than flavorful. Number 13. Shaw's Pretzels. Shaw's pretzels look like a simple New England grocery staple, but they suffer from one key issue: inconsistent bake texture. Many shoppers complain that one part of the pretzel feels crisp, while another part feels dense or slightly chewy. That kind of unevenness usually happens when pretzel trays aren't rotated properly during baking, causing hot spots inside older industrial ovens. Another recurring complaint is Shaw's slightly bitter crust, especially in the mini twists. Bitter notes typically appear when the alkaline dip is too strong, or when the dough surface browns too quickly before the inside is fully cooked. That imbalance leaves the pretzels with a harsh aftertaste rather than a clean roasted flavor. Customers also note that Shaw's pretzels can lose freshness fast once opened, turning soft within hours. That fast staling is a sign of lower dough moisture and limited fat content. Number 12. Price Chopper Pretzels. Price Chopper pretzels are affordable, but their biggest flaw is their hollow, airy interior, which gives them a weak crunch and makes them crumble almost immediately. This usually happens when the dough goes through an overly aggressive drying stage before baking, a common cost-saving tactic in large batch production. Another frequent complaint is a slightly metallic bite, especially in the pretzel rods. This flavor typically appears when the baking soda bath isn't calibrated evenly, leaving some pretzels with too high an alkaline residue on the surface. Customers also report that Price Chopper pretzels often taste bland and under-fermented. Without proper fermentation time, pretzels never develop the rich, toasted depth that makes them satisfying. Visually, the pretzels sometimes appear patchy or irregularly shaped, which suggests automated cutting equipment may be running at high speeds with minimal quality monitoring. Number 11. Tops Pretzels. Tops Pretzels are a common pick in northeastern grocery stores, but they struggle with the noticeable dryness that many customers point out. These pretzels feel like they've been baked a little too long, producing a hard, chalky crunch rather than a balanced snap. That texture typically emerges when factories aim for extended shelf life by reducing internal moisture. Flavor-wise, Tops pretzels often taste muted and overly plain, which usually indicates a low malt dough recipe. Without malt or proper fermentation, pretzels lose their signature savory depth and end up tasting like plain salted crackers. Consumers also report that Tops pretzels have an uneven salt distribution, with some pieces heavily coated and others practically bare. That inconsistency reflects rushed seasoning drum cycles in high-volume production. While Tops excels in many bakery and deli categories, their pretzels disappoint with dry bite, weak flavor, and inconsistent seasoning, making them one of the less compelling options in Northeast grocery chains. Number 10. Bimbo Bakery's Pretzels. Bimbo Bakeries is a massive snack manufacturer, but its pretzel offerings often feel more processed than traditional. One of the biggest issues reviewers mention is a strong artificial-like aftertaste, which typically comes from dough conditioners and stabilizers used to maintain texture during long-distance shipping. Another concern is the overly uniform, machine-perfect appearance. While that seems like a positive, it often signals dough that's been heavily treated and shaped mechanically rather than naturally developed. Over-mechanized dough tends to lose flavor and can feel strangely empty when chewed. Texture-wise, Bimbo pretzels often have a hard, almost snappy dryness, a sign that moisture has been aggressively baked out to achieve longer shelf life across national distribution networks. Some consumers also point out that the pretzels don't brown evenly, creating spots of pale dough inside the twists, a clear sign of rushed production. Bimbo is a snack giant, but their pretzels suffer from over-processing, artificial-tasting dough, and complex, dry texture, putting them far behind objective pretzel quality standards. Number 9. Bachmann Pretzels. Bachmann is an older, well-known pretzel brand, but their modern production has mixed feedback. The biggest complaint is their rough, gritty surface texture, caused by coarse-grind salt and older dough formulations. While some see this as traditional, most consumers describe it as harsh and unpleasant. Another issue is uneven roast levels. Bachmann pretzels sometimes develop dark, almost burnt spots next to pale areas, a sign of inconsistent airflow inside older convection ovens. This uneven roasting can leave pretzels tasting both bitter and bland within the same bag. Some customers also mention a stale odor upon opening specific batches. That typically comes from long storage times or packaging that doesn't fully protect against humidity. While Bachmann has nostalgic appeal, the gritty exterior, uneven baking, and stale aroma issues make their pretzels feel outdated compared to smoother, more balanced modern options. Number 8. Jay's Pretzels. Jay's Pretzels have strong name recognition in some regions, but customer reviews consistently point to one major flaw: an oddly sharp, almost harsh crunch that feels more brittle than crisp. This usually happens when pretzels are baked with excessively low moisture dough, leading to a hard, tooth-snapping texture instead of the smooth break pretzels are known for. Another common complaint is a slightly scorched flavor in specific batches. That burnt edge typically appears when pretzels bake too close to the heating elements inside older tunnel ovens. When the outer crust browns too quickly, the inside can stay pale, creating an uneven flavor profile. Jay's pretzels also tend to suffer from salt clumping, where patches of heavy salt stick to certain areas while entire pieces remain bare. That inconsistency happens when the seasoning drums don't rotate evenly during coating. Jay's has its fans, but the harsh crunch, scorched notes, and uneven salt coverage make these pretzels a risky pick for anyone expecting balanced flavor and texture. Number 7. Hanover Select Pretzels. Hanover makes many pretzel varieties, but the Select line often receives complaints for its overly dense interior, which makes the pretzels feel heavy instead of light and crunchy. Dense dough usually indicates short fermentation times, a cost-cutting move that prevents natural flavor from developing and leaves the final product tasting compressed. Customers also report a stale, muted aroma when opening the bag. This can happen when pretzels sit in secondary warehouses longer than intended, allowing the toasted scent to dissipate even if the product is still technically fresh. Another recurring issue is surface coating inconsistency. Hanover Select pretzels sometimes appear dusty, lacking the glossy exterior you expect from a proper alkaline dip. Without that sheen, the pretzels don't deliver the classic roasted pretzel flavor. The Select line looks premium, but the dense bite, weak aroma, and dull exterior finish make it fall short of the brand's reputation, especially compared to Hanover's better-known baked snacks. Number 6. Salty Sticks Pretzels. Generic Salty Sticks pretzels show up in dollar stores, drugstores, and discount bins, and their quality reflects the inconsistent sourcing. One of the most significant issues is the ultra-thin structure, which makes the pretzels snap instantly and crumble into dust inside the bag. This typically means factories are using high-starch, low-gluten flour, which weakens dough strength. Another complaint is the aggressive saltiness, with some pieces tasting overwhelmingly salty while others have almost none. That uneven profile happens because many low-budget producers skip the moisture-setting step that helps salt bind evenly. Consumers also mention a flat, papery aftertaste, which is common when pretzels are baked from extremely fast-rise dough that never develops authentic flavor. Number 5. Pretzel House. Pretzel House markets itself as a home-style snack, but the mass-market line tells a different story. The most consistent complaint is the thick, tough shells that feel over-hardened. This usually happens when dough is baked at higher temperatures to accelerate productivity, causing the crust to harden before the interior fully develops. Another frequent issue is the doughy, flour-heavy center, which suggests the pretzels didn't proof long enough before baking. When dough isn't properly rested, pretzels lose aroma, depth, and that characteristic pretzel snap. Shoppers also report inconsistent roasting patterns, with some pieces lightly toasted and others deeply browned. That uneven coloration often points to older ovens with temperature fluctuations. Although the branding suggests artisan quality, pretzel houses mass-market batches suffer from hard shells, underdeveloped centers, and inconsistent roasting, making them far less appealing than truly well-made pretzels. Number 4. Dutch Valley pretzels. Dutch Valley pretzels look like classic country-style snacks, but customers consistently point to one major problem: extreme hardness. These pretzels often feel almost rock solid, a sign that the dough was dried too aggressively before baking. When that happens, moisture evaporates too quickly, leaving the interior rigid instead of snappy. Another recurring issue is their overly toasty, borderline burnt flavor. Dutch Valley uses deeper roasting for color, but when ovens run too hot, the malt sugars on the crust can scorch, producing a bitter aftertaste instead of the warm caramelized notes pretzels should have. Shoppers also complain about uneven shape and twist tension, where some pieces appear stretched, misshapen, or over-twisted. That inconsistency usually comes from older cutting equipment that doesn't keep the dough uniform. Dutch Valley has a nostalgic, old-fashioned charm, but the over-hardened texture, scorched notes, and irregular shaping make these pretzels far less enjoyable than their rustic packaging suggests. Number 3. Snack Factory Regular Line. Snack Factory is famous for pretzel crisps, but the regular non-clean line has an entirely different reputation. Many customers complain about a flat, almost cracker-like bite that lacks the depth of an actual pretzel. This hollow crunch usually comes from dough formulas designed for mass production rather than slow, flavor-building fermentation. Another issue is the pronounced salt harshness. Because these pretzels are flattened and thin, the salt sits directly on the surface without enough dough underneath to balance the impact, making some bites taste overwhelmingly sharp. Several buyers also mention a slightly plasticky smell when opening the bag. This doesn't mean contamination. It usually comes from pretzels stored for long periods in flexible packaging without enough airflow protection. Snack Factory's premium lines perform well, but the regular mass market version suffers from thin dough, harsh saltiness, and storage-affected aroma, making it one of the least impressive options under the brand. Number 2. Pears Snacks Pretzels. Pears Snacks pretzels fly under the radar, but the quality concerns are hard to ignore. The most common complaint is their crumbly, fragile build, where pretzels almost disintegrate in the hand. This typically happens when producers use low-gluten flour blends that can't support a stable pretzel structure. Flavor-wise, many customers describe a dry, papery finish, which suggests extremely short fermentation times. Without fermentation, pretzels never form the deep toasted flavor that defines good pretzel dough. Instead, they end up tasting like compressed flour. Another issue is the uneven roasting tone across batches. Some pretzels look pale and underbrowned, while others have dark brown blotches. This kind of inconsistency points to older ovens or irregular airflow during baking. Number 1. Pretzel Peat. Pretzel peat is known for flavored varieties, but the regular processed line receives heavy criticism for its chalky, powder-heavy exterior. That dusty coating comes from flavor carriers and anti-caking agents used to help seasonings stick, but on plain pretzels, it creates a dry, unpleasant mouthfeel. Another recurring problem is intense batch-to-batch variation. Some bags taste mildly savory, while others feel oversalted or strangely flat. This inconsistency comes from bulk seasoning applicators that aren't optimized for plain pretzels, causing massive variation depending on when the batch was mixed. Customers also report a lingering artificial aftertaste, a sign that the dough formula relies on stabilizers or dough conditioners to maintain shelf life for national distribution. Pretzel Pete's flavored snacks are popular, but the regular processed line suffers from chalky texture, uneven flavor intensity, and artificial tasting dough, earning it the number 1 spot on this list of pretzels to avoid. But don't worry, it's not all bad news. Not every pretzel is fried in seed oils and packed with artificial additives. Some brands are actually clean, simple, and made with real ingredients, such as number 10, Quinn Pretzels. Quinn Pretzels stand out because the brand follows a clean label approach that prioritizes real ingredients, transparent sourcing, and minimal processing. Instead of relying on heavily refined flours or artificial additives, Quinn uses organically grown whole grain sorghum, a naturally gluten-friendly ancient grain known for its mild flavor and strong nutritional profile. This gives their pretzels a light, crisp bite without turning brittle or chalky. The brand also avoids synthetic preservatives, artificial flavors, and seed oil blends, choosing high-quality organic oils that help retain freshness without leaving a greasy surface. Their production method emphasizes slow fermentation and low-temperature baking, which helps develop flavor naturally instead of masking flaws with additives. Customers consistently praise Quinn for its clean crunch, balanced salt level, and warm toasted aroma, something many mass-market pretzels fail to deliver. For families wanting ingredient transparency, allergy-friendly formulas, and real food simplicity, Quinn works exceptionally well. It's a modern pretzel brand built on clarity, quality, and thoughtful sourcing, a refreshing break from the processed snack aisle. Number 9. Simple Mills Almond Flour Pretzels. Simple Mills almond flour pretzels have earned a reputation for being one of the cleanest grain-free pretzel options available. Instead of traditional refined wheat flour, these pretzels use a blend of almond flour, cassava, and organic sunflower oil, creating a nutrient-dense base with real flavor instead of empty crunch. Almond flour provides natural richness, while cassava gives the pretzels their signature light snap. The brand focuses on short, recognizable ingredient lists, making their products especially appealing to people avoiding additives, preservatives, synthetic flavors, and gluten. Because the dough is based on whole food ingredients rather than starch-heavy fillers, Simple Mills pretzels tend to have a warm, subtly nutty flavor that feels satisfying without needing heavy salt. The texture is crisp but not harsh, and the pretzels maintain freshness well because the natural fats in almond flour help stabilize moisture. For snacking, lunchboxes, or clean-eating households, Simple Mills offers a genuinely nutritious alternative that feels indulgent without relying on processed grains or artificial ingredients. Number 8. FitJoy Grain-Free Pretzels. FitJoy grain-free pretzels are designed with food sensitivities in mind, but they manage to deliver impressive flavor without using wheat, corn, soy, or artificial additives. These pretzels rely on a blend of cassava flour, chickpea flour, and high-quality oils, which creates a dough that bakes into a crisp, airy texture rather than the dense crunch typical of grain-free snacks. FitJoy avoids artificial preservatives and flavors, instead using clean, straightforward ingredients that support easier digestion. Many sensitive eaters appreciate that the brand is free from common allergens and does not rely on synthetic binding agents that can leave an artificial aftertaste. Flavor-wise, FitJoy provides a nicely balanced, salty, savory profile, enhanced by gentle roasting that develops natural depth without bitterness. The pretzels also maintain structure well, avoiding the crumbling issues found in cheaper grain-free alternatives. Number 7. Savor Street Gluten-Free Pretzels. Savor Street pretzels shine because they offer gluten-free pretzels that don't taste gluten-free, a rare achievement. Instead of relying heavily on starches or fillers, the brand uses simple, recognizable ingredients, including high-quality gluten-free flours and minimal added oils. This gives their pretzels a clean crunch and well-developed flavor, without the chalkiness typical of many gluten-free snacks. Parents especially appreciate that Savor Street avoids artificial preservatives, artificial colors, and stabilizers, choosing instead a clean baking process with thoughtful formulation. Their pretzels are made in dedicated facilities designed to reduce cross-contact risks, making them a trusted option for families dealing with gluten or allergen concerns. One standout detail is the light, airy texture, something challenging to achieve in gluten-free formats. The pretzels break cleanly rather than splintering, and the salt levels are well controlled, offering flavor without overwhelming the palate. Number 6. Snack Factory Organic Clean Line. Snack Factory's Organic Clean Line is very different from their regular processed line. Here, the brand focuses on organic wheat flour, clean oils, and slow fermentation, giving the pretzels a deeper, toasty flavor and a more natural crunch. The Clean line removes synthetic flavors, dough conditioners, artificial preservatives, and unnecessary sweeteners commonly found in mass-market pretzels. The organic flour blend produces a richer aroma and better browning because it contains the natural enzymes and minerals missing from refined flours. As a result, these pretzels develop a golden crust and balanced interior rather than the hollow, cracker-like snap of the company's cheaper lines. Customers also praise the smooth, even texture, which proves that the dough is handled gently and shaped with better control compared to budget alternatives. Salt levels are carefully measured, and the pretzels maintain freshness longer thanks to higher quality oils and proper packaging. Number 5. Uncle Henry's Pretzels. Uncle Henry's is one of the few pretzel brands that still uses an accurate old-world baking method, and the difference shows immediately. Their pretzels are made using stone ground flour, slow fermentation, and hand-twisted shaping, creating a deep, roasted flavor profile that cheaper processed brands simply can't match. The long fermentation builds natural complexity without relying on additives. The brand keeps ingredients with extremely simple real flour, real oil, real salt, and avoids modern processing shortcuts such as quick-rise dough, artificial colors, preservatives, or flavor enhancers. Because of this, the pretzels have a warm, malty aroma and a satisfying crunch that feels authentic rather than manufactured. Uncle Henry's also uses a low and slow baking cycle, which prevents scorching and allows the pretzels to develop a firm crust with an evenly baked interior. Their salt distribution is controlled and consistent, avoiding harsh bursts of salinity. Number 4. Unique sprouted pretzels. Unique sprouted pretzels are one of the most nutrient-forward pretzel options on shelves. Instead of using regular wheat flour, the brand relies on sprouted whole grains, which naturally boost digestibility and increase the availability of nutrients like B vitamins and minerals. Sprouting also gives the dough a deeper, slightly nutty character that develops flavor without needing added sugar or artificial enhancers. Because sprouted grains hydrate differently than refined flour, these pretzels have a distinctively light, airy crunch while still feeling hearty, something consumers repeatedly praise. Unique also avoids chemical additives and dough conditioners, letting the sprouted grains and natural fermentation carry the flavor. Another standout is the slow bake cycle, which prevents scorching and produces a warm, golden crust with a clean, toasted aroma. Salt application is subtle and even, creating balance instead of harsh bursts. Number 3. Ground-up grain-free pretzels. Ground-up grain-free pretzels are built for clean eaters who want a snack that feels indulgent but stays true to real food principles. Instead of wheat or corn, they use a blend of root vegetables, cassava flour, and nutrient-dense oils, creating a dough that bakes evenly without relying on gums, fillers, or artificial binders. These pretzels have a surprisingly balanced flavor, thanks to gentle roasting that brings out natural sweetness from the root vegetables. The result is a pretzel that tastes savory and satisfying without being oversalted. The texture is crisp, but not brittle, a rare achievement for grain-free snacks, which often crumble or feel chalky. Ground Up intentionally keeps ingredient lists short, appealing to shoppers who avoid gluten, grains, soy, and artificial additives. Customers praise the pretzels for their light texture, digestibility, and clean, vegetable-forward flavor profile. Number 2. From the Ground Up Cauliflower Pretzels. From the Ground Up is known for rewriting snack formulas using real vegetables, and their cauliflower pretzels are a standout example. These pretzels replace refined flour with cauliflower, cassava, and vegetable starches, which results in a light, crisp texture without excessive processing. The veggie base also adds a subtle, savory complexity that sets these pretzels apart from traditional wheat snacks. The brand keeps ingredients clean and straightforward, avoiding artificial colors, artificial flavors, preservatives, and stabilizers. Because the dough is vegetable forward, it delivers more fiber and micronutrients than typical pretzels, while still feeling snackable and familiar. Their baking approach maintains even roasting and consistent shape, preventing the pale spots and burnt edges commonly seen in mass-market pretzels. Salt levels are moderate and well-balanced, supporting flavor without overpowering the vegetable notes. Number 1. Mary's Gone Pretzels. Mary's Gone Pretzels take the top spot because they combine whole food ingredients, clean processing, and exceptional flavor in a way few pretzel brands achieve. Instead of using refined wheat or fillers, Mary's relies on a blend of organic, gluten-free, whole grains and seeds such as brown rice, quinoa, and flax to create pretzels that are deeply nutritious without sacrificing crunch. The dough is mixed without artificial additives, preservatives, or modified starches. This clean production approach creates a pretzel with a rich, seeded aroma and a hearty snap that feels both wholesome and indulgent. The natural oils from the seeds contribute to freshness and balanced browning, preventing the stale dryness common in conventional gluten-free snacks. Mary's also excels in consistency. Texture, salt distribution, and flavor remain reliable across batches, thanks to controlled, small-batch baking methods rather than high-speed mass production.